Hi, and welcome to Cooking with Anarchy's tutorial series. I'm going to be showing you today how to edit any macros that you happen to record in Excel. So if you have made macros and there's tiny little errors that you're noticing, or you want to change a little bit of it without having to redo the entire macro, I'm going to show you how to do that today. So I'm starting out with a blank sheet here, and I'm actually just going to fill in a little bit of information while I record a macro. So in order to record a macro, you of course go down to Tools, Macro, and Record New Macro. And I'm going to go ahead and record it in this workbook as well. This is what you want to pay attention to here. Is the macro name is macro 1. You're storing it in this workbook. The other options you have are a personal macro workbook, which opens up by default automatically in Excel and hides itself. It's actually working in the background. Or you can put it into a new workbook, which has not been opened yet, but in this example. But what we're going to do is do this workbook. We're going to record in there because that's the easiest, and then we're going to remember these descriptions right here, this description. So macro name is macro 1, recording in this workbook, and there's the automatic description there. So as you can see right here, we're recording. So I'm going to kind of move that button aside, and I'm just going to fill in like some information here. It's not really anything of importance. We'll just do 2, 6. We'll just fill in a couple of numbers here, whatever they are. Who knows? Who knows what I'm selling here, but these will just be some sort of numbers that, just for the sake of example. Let's say 19 there. So. And I'm going to fill in a code right here, or a formula, that plus that. And then we'll record those all the way down. Okay. So we have basically information in this cell, and of course you see all those other ones, and then I put a formula in this row. And I'm going to stop the macro right there. Okay. Now, you saw those clicks and everything that I was doing, so let's go over to a sheet right here, a new sheet. This is, I was at sheet 1, I'm going to sheet 2 to show you what it was I recorded. You're going down to Tools, Macro, Play Macro, and the only one that's recorded right here is Macro 1, so I will play that, and it does that real quick. Seemingly something very instantaneous. But if you push Alt F11, that's the key combination I'm pushing right now. Alt F11. It takes you to this really scary looking sheet right here. This looks like it's going to be very complicated, when in fact it's not too complicated for our purposes right now. This is actually where you do VBA. This is a Microsoft Visual Basic. This is VBA, Visual Basic for applications. That's within all the Microsoft Office products. I believe it's all of them. But you can actually write code and everything in here. This is you can get much more detailed code in this particular area. But for our purposes, the macro we just recorded is within this workbook. It's called Book 1. Okay, each one of these are the sheets for our that are back here in this workbook. It's sheet 1, 2, and 3. You can embed code in these other sheets if you want to, or you can click on this module right here. This module that we created, see, it's called sub macro 1 right there. Remember when we named the macro 1, and remember the description that we had? It said this right here. It said macro recorded 11/15/2009 by MC Beck. So this is macro 1. This is everything that we did deciphered into Visual Basic for us already. So what you can do is you can kind of take a look at this. You can see, okay, well, what I did was, the first thing I did when I started recording was I selected F4, cell F4, and then I typed in 2. I selected F5 and I typed in 6. I selected F6, typed in 13, and on and on. And then you have this other stuff down here, which is R1, C1 code. I'm not going to get into that. That's much more complicated. It's a different kind of tutorial, but you need to see that this is, once I selected cell H4, which if I move this aside, you can see H4 is where the code is at right there. I selected H4 and I typed in this. This is actually saying 2 cells over to the left, so that which would be F4, plus one cell over to the left. The minus means over to the left, the plus means over to the right, unless you're going up and down, but again, that's beyond this tutorial, so let's not even worry about that right now. And then we had this other range right here where I selected H4 again, and I did an autofill. I double-clicked it right there, or I pulled it down. So that's what that is. I did a range of H4 to H7, which was H4 to H7 right there. And and then that's when I put in the codes. It filled these cells with that code that I pulled down. So this is all this is what I run whenever I run the macro. This is where it's at. So whenever I say run macro 1, it's going to find this in this workbook, and it's going to run this exact series right here, no matter what sheet I'm in. So if you wanted, let's just pretend that I don't want to put this particular code in here, this one that says 2, 6, 3, 21. Or actually, you know what? Let's show something better. Let's say these numbers are wrong for some reason. They're the same numbers every time, but let's say that I accidentally put these in wrong. Instead of going back in and re-recording the macro, I can go to Alt F11, which is where we're at, go to the module, find the right macro, and change this to let's say 5, like I meant to do. And I'll save that. And of course I have to save the book, so I'll save that. Okay, so I saved that. It's now going to be 5 in that cell. So let's close that. Let's open up sheet 3 right here, and we will run the macro again. And now there's 5 in there instead of 2, as you can see. That's a little oversimplified, possibly, but I just want to show you the purpose is just to show you that you can do edits, whether they're minor or major edits. If you see, if you know VBA code, you can go in here. Actually, if you know VBA code, this tutorial probably does you no good whatsoever. But if you're not familiar with VBA code, but you are familiar with what it is that your macro is doing, and you don't want to record that macro because maybe it's a very long macro, it's a very long process, and you know exactly what it is that you want to change, like you know that this one right here, this 6 was incorrect, you can go back in there by pushing Alt F11, choosing the module over here for that particular book that you saved it in, finding your macro, and make your edits that way. An alternative way to do that is if you wanted to get rid of a line out of a macro. Let's say that something's just completely, it's just not necessary to be in there. You can put like selecting these ranges. That is actually necessary, so I'm not going to do that. But there's if you wanted to, let's say this, I selected the range down here, H4, H7 again. It goes in order. It filled in this range for, it selected H4, and they did an autofill for H4 to H7, and it selected the range again for H4, H7. I don't really need that in there. If I wanted to comment this one out, I'd put an apostrophe right there, and it turns it green. It leaves the code in there, but it'll skip over that. It will now skip over that one green line right there. That's just for commenting purposes. So if you wanted to test stuff out, if you want to test like removing a line and seeing how your macro reacts differently, you can always put an apostrophe right there, and it just won't run those lines whenever it runs through the macro. So if you click save again right there, and I'll show you this one more time. I'm going to clear all this out here. And then I'm going to run the macro again. And you can't really see it, but it did not run this other part where I chose it like that and then clicked right there. Okay. So I hope that helps a little bit. This is really just meant to be very, very beginner stuff. So you don't want to mess with your macros too much, but if you're doing minor edits to it, I hope this one will be, I hope this tutorial kind of helps out a little bit. So and lets you know that you have more flexible options than just re-recording your macro again. That's about it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you at the next one. Thanks.